When the Mitsubishi Xpander first arrived in the Philippine market, its proposition was pretty simple. The brand wanted to offer the same practicality in the regular Xpander and offer it in a slightly more rugged and appealing form factor. Heavy hitters like the Toyota Veloz, the Hyundai Staria, and even the all-new Toyota Avanza started pouring in recently. And we want to know if Mitsubishi has done enough to help its chunky boy here stand out from the rest of the pack. So we've come to New Clark City today to see if that's the case. So in terms of mechanicals and performance, there's really nothing separating the Xpander Cross from the regular version of the Xpander. Both come equipped with a 1.5-liter MyVec gasoline engine with 103 horsepower and 141 Nm of torque. What is different though is that the Xpander Cross is actually around 20 kilograms heavier than the regular version of the Xpander, depending on what variant you get, of course. But yeah, there is a weight difference. It's not too big, but it might still have an impact on, let's say, fuel economy, and you might notice it when you're going up steep inclines or whatever. Speaking of inclines, we're at one now, and I don't think I'm gonna notice it too much because we're not on a full load or anything, but I'm gonna climb up and tell you what it feels like anyway. So from a full stop, we're climbing up. You can already hear the engine. This has a 4-speed automatic transmission, by the way. And not surprisingly, I didn't really notice any difference, but again, we're not on a full load, and that incline is really more of a ramp going up to a building. I mentioned that it has a 4-speed automatic transmission, so no CVT, which some of you guys may consider an advantage. A lot of our readers prefer an automatic transmission, a traditional one, compared to a CVT, so that's something worth noting as well. And I've also noticed that this actually feels pretty refined when you compare to the previous generation Xpander Cross. Now, one feature that Mitsubishi is highlighting in the Xpander Cross, it's a new one. It's active yaw control, which, if it works properly, it's supposed to help manage brake force distribution between the left and right wheels up front. This is a front-wheel drive vehicle, so no changes there either. Now, if it works properly, it's supposed to improve traction and make the car safer overall, but we're not really in a setting where we can try out a safety feature like that. So yeah, that's something that's there, but we can't actually display it right now without risking something bad happening. In terms of comfort, it's definitely more refined than the previous generation Xpander Cross, and the steering is definitely on the lighter side of things, which makes it ideal for tighter streets, urban settings, parking lots, condo parking lots, that kind of stuff. So active yaw control, that's new here, Mitsubishi says. Active stability control is still here. You've got an electronic parking brake with auto hold. Hill start assist is there, cruise control, and the headlights are new. They're LEDs now, tri-projector LED headlights, and even the fog lights are LEDs now, so that's definitely an upgrade as well. No more halogens, LEDs all around. Once you step inside the Xpander Cross, the first thing you'll notice is that obviously the entire look is very similar to what you'd find in the regular Xpander. No surprises there. But the Cross does have a few advantages over its more vanilla sibling, and the biggest of which is the new instrument cluster. Once you hop in the driver's seat, you're now faced with an 8-inch screen instead of the traditional design. And I have to say that I like it. It's very similar to what you'd see inside something like the Montero Sport. And it should give you better control over what kind of vehicle information or vehicle settings you can play around with while you're on the go. Another change that Mitsubishi has made with the Xpander Cross is that it now gets a new 4-spoke steering wheel instead of the old 3-spoke design. And overall, the look is very similar again to what you'd find in the Montero Sport. Anyone who's driven that midsize SUV should be familiar with the button layout. One thing I do really like is the soft touch material Mitsubishi used in here. The brand says that it's blue, but it really kind of looks more like a gray to me. But it's still really nice. You can tell immediately that it's not something you would usually find inside an 7-seat MPV. And also a big thumbs up for the inclusion of contrast white stitching on the seats and the dashboard. And now we're going to step into the second and third rows of the Xpander Cross. So we're gonna pop open the door over here. As you can see, there's a decent amount of space in the second row, but that is because the seats are slid all the way to the back. If you want to fit people in the third row, you're gonna have to make some room by sliding it forward a bit, and I'm gonna show you what that looks like. Now I am going to hop in the third row to show you what the experience is like. And dropping this seat down is simple enough. You just pull this lever and then easy enough, but yeah. Okay, it's not staying down. That's kind of a question mark, but it makes it easy enough to hop inside anyway. So here we go. Back down and back up. Okay, so I've managed to squeeze myself into the rearmost section of the Mitsubishi Xpander Cross. And as you can probably tell, there is not too much room in here. That's pretty much, again, what you would expect in a 7-seat MPV. The Toyota Avanza or Hyundai Stargazer is not gonna go around claiming that you can easily fit a 5'10" person in the third row of the vehicle. So it's par for the course with this segment. I do have to highlight though that the part of the third row I'm in, it currently has a second row seat pushed forward to the max, which means the space in the second row is compromised. And that's just so I can fit in here. If you'll notice, this portion of the second row, this is pushed to the back. I'm not gonna fit in here. There's no way. My knees are probably gonna prevent the seat from even locking down on the floor to remain stable. So me sitting here is out of the question. And before we wrap up this tour of the Xpander Cross's interior, we're gonna pop open the back. If you're familiar with the Xpander Cross, I mean the regular Xpander, again, there are no surprises here. You have enough space for a couple of overnight bags. You've got compartments here on the sides, maybe for some water bottles or whatever, smaller items. But this is with the seats up. If you fold them down with a quick pull here, and another one here. Now, with the third row folded down, the cargo area remains relatively flat. I say relatively because there's kind of an angle to it when you bring them down. So things that might roll around in the back, you'll definitely want to place them securely. I mentioned this in my review of the Xpander. It's that since the Xpander Cross rides higher than most other 7-seat MPVs, you may have a little more trouble loading larger items into the back of the vehicle. The same goes for the door well here. It's a little narrower compared to what we found was in the Avanza or let's say the Veloz. That's something you want to take note of if you plan on placing larger items in the back on the regular. Okay, so as I said earlier, the meat of this product is in the aesthetic, the appearance. And frankly, I really like what Mitsubishi has done with the all-new Xpander Cross. For starters, let's talk about the paint. When I was handed the keys to this unit earlier today, they said that it was gonna be orange, but now that we're here under the sun, under the bright afternoon sun, I might add, it really gives off a kind of bronzish and gold vibe, which I feel adds to the premiumness of the whole package. By the way, this two-tone color scheme that you see here, the black roof with the roof rails, this is not available with the regular Xpander. So if you like the colors, go with the Xpander Cross. We're gonna move down low a bit and you're gonna find some black plastic cladding with a few contrasting pieces of, what's that, gray, silver trim. I'm sure not everyone is into that look, but if you are, you know which variant to go for. Now moving up to the front, you still get the slim daytime running lights you see in the regular Xpander, the T-shaped headlights, as well as these nice pieces of chrome. You have the new grille. It has a more rugged feel to it, and it's got a mix of glossy black plastic and matte treatment over here. And under that, you get this, it's sort of like an underguard, but it's not really gonna protect your car from anything. If you bash it against a rock, it's still gonna break. But again, it's all aesthetics with the Mitsubishi Xpander Cross. And now we're gonna move over here to the wheel arches, the side of the car. And as you can see, there's still a generous use of matte black plastic. And I like what they've done here. Some people might say it's a bit much, but it kind of gives the impression that the Xpander Cross rides higher than it does. And speaking of the ride, if you think that it looks like it's a little bit taller or rides a little higher off the ground compared to the regular Xpander, that's just you, because it actually rides on the same 225 millimeters of ground clearance. Not that we're complaining, since that figure is actually relatively good for a 7-seat MPV. And now let's talk pricing. Each one of these is gonna set you back 1.328 million pesos, which is a substantial bit more compared to the standard Xpander. Now, is the upgrade worth the asking price? If you ask me, it depends entirely on whether or not you know what you're getting into. Looking for a vehicle that can haul the whole family and looks pretty tough? Then the Xpander Cross is probably a safe bet if you have the budget. But if you're expecting more potent performance or something you can take off-road during the weekends, I strongly suggest that you consider something else.